After some intense fighting, the battle for Bakhmut may be nearing its endgame. NATO chief says the eastern Ukrainian city could fall to Russia in a matter of days now. Jens Stoltenberg's remarks come as Russia's Wagner mercenary group claims to have captured the eastern bank of the industrial town.
We can not rule out that Bakhmut may eventually fall in the coming days. And therefore, it is also important to highlight that this does not necessarily reflect any turning point of the war, and it just highlights that we should not underestimate Russia.
The city of over 70,000 people has been devastated in the longest battle of the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainian officials say around 4,000 civilians remain in the town, including dozens of children. Wagner Group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin said his forces have taken all of the eastern part of Bakhmut. Now, earlier, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said taking control of the city would allow for further offensive operations in eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, on the other hand, says his armed forces were resolved to stay in Bakhmut. Zelensky on Wednesday hosted UN Chief Antonio Guterres in Kiev. In a statement following the talks, Guterres underscored the importance of extending an expiring grain deal. Meanwhile, in Stockholm, EU ministers were discussing plans to ramp up defense production and rush ammunition to Ukraine. Europe plans to rush €1 billion worth of ammunition to Ukraine. West says Kiev is facing a critical shortage of howitzer shells. For more on this, we are now joined live by Elizabeth Braw, who is a national security expert from Washington, D.C. Welcome to WION, Elizabeth. Now, much has been said on the battle for Bakhmut by Russia and Wagner and the US and NATO, which says it might happen in the next few days. What's your reading on the matter?
The Ukrainians are in a very tough spot. Bakhmut is virtually encircled by Russian forces. And on top of that, what the Russians are doing, or what the Wagner Group is doing, is using prisoners that have agreed to serve with the Wagner Group in exchange for obviously being released from prison. And they're being sent forward as human waves to face the Ukrainian soldiers. And lots of them are being killed. But that doesn't seem to matter very much to Russia. What Russia is trying to do is to wear down and wear out the Ukrainian defenders by constantly sending in new waves of Wagner troops, former prisoners who then die or are killed. So it's a tough situation for the Ukrainians, but they seem intent on holding on for as long as they can, because it's their territory, and I think any country would say, you know, we will defend our territory until it's no longer possible, and that's where we are. A narrowing window for the Ukrainians, but nevertheless, they are still there.
Now, Elizabeth, Russia has been after Bakhmut for a while now. Now, winning Bakhmut, will that be a turning point in this war?
In terms of the town itself, it's insignificant. It's not a very big town, and on top of that, now it's virtually destroyed. So there isn't really very much in it. There are virtually no people left, virtually no buildings left untouched by the Russian attacks. But what the Russians want is a victory, however small, so that Putin and other senior officials can communicate to the Russian public that they are turning the tide of this war. So it doesn't matter if it's a small town that has been reduced to rubble. They can still say we are turning the tide against Ukrainians, which is why they are fighting so hard to take this town of Bakhmut.
I would also like to ask you, what sort of possibilities does winning Bakhmut throw open given its geographical and strategic position?
I think that the most important benefit of taking Bakhmut would be that Russia is able to say, we are turning the tide, things are starting to go our way, our strategy is working out, because things haven't been going Russia's way in the past few months. It's at the beginning of the war, Russia won quite a bit of territory, then the Ukrainians pushed back and have kept pushing back. So if Russia is now able to say now with Bakhmut, if it does capture Bakhmut, the tide is turning, we are winning, then that is important in terms of political support from the public at home, because we should remember that Putin sold this war to the public not as a war but as a special military operation, as something that would just take a couple of days, a few days, and then it would be mission accomplished. Now it's more than a year, and the Russians are not being very successful at all. So this would be sort of a marquee case where they would be able to say things are turning, things are beginning to go our way.